Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Friday, right? Happy fishing opener. Happy first day of the I-94 Speedway. Happy concert at Center for the Arts, Toby Keith tribute. What else is going on good today? Okay, it's Friday, right? Let's hear it for Friday. Woohoo! We got to start with like a round of applause. Get your hands warmed up, right? Because this is going to be a groovy kind of day. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Workman. I'm the president of the Fergus Falls Area Chamber of Commerce. Thrilled to welcome you to the 2026 Fergus Falls State of the Business Community. We've got a jam-packed morning for you. Coffees are being refilled as you consume them, so feel free to get up and refill your cup or fill from your carafe. There's plenty of fruit and muffins available out there. If you need to kind of get up and stretch throughout the morning, feel free to do so. We aren't taking a break. We are going to just keep moving on through. This is kind of a extended version of a chamber cafe, but I didn't bring my flags. Ooh, that could be bad, right? If you know Chamber Cafe, I kind of like my flags and timing. So again, so happy to welcome you here today. This is the official kickoff of the Chamber's 140th anniversary year. So woo-woo! And after the last couple weeks of our change and flip in schedule and plans, I feel like I've been here all 140 years. So if I happen to nod off, Melissa Davis, if you'll poke, no, I'm kidding. I promise I won't nod off till after 10 o'clock today. She'll poke me, yes. So this is our kickoff, and we're excited to celebrate with you today. We had our Business Gives recognition going on as you were joining us this morning. So we want to thank the more than 40 businesses in our community who we've recognized through the Business Gives, and we recognize them for giving 2% or more of their net profits back to the community in the form of volunteerism, donated products, services, and cash investments. So we want to thank those many businesses who support the nonprofits in our area through our Fergus Falls Business Gives. And again, don't forget to pick up your plaques on the way out, but we're changing things up a little this year. We are not announcing each and every, so you don't have to stand up like it's a high school graduation or anything like that. Save that for graduation. So again, we know actually it was almost hard to talk people into being recognized. Y'all are so humble, and just genuine. They're like, no, we don't need any recognition. I'm like, yes, you do. We need to thank you. So one of the reasons we do that is to encourage other businesses to give back to the community too, because that's part of what makes Fergus Falls so fabulous. All right, I also do want to thank our sponsors for today, the Daily Journal Media, Gate City Bank, Nelson Auto, and Otter Tail Power Company for helping us put this event together today. Let's give them a round of applause. Keep those hands warm. Also, while you're here, mark on your calendars, we can visit Nelson Auto Center next Thursday for Chamber Cafe. So they're hosting our first in-person Chamber Cafe of the year, Thursday, May 14th. And I'll try to remember to remind you later, but there are cards on your table. Free pass for everyone today. So Free Pass Friday. Alrighty. Also on your table, you'll find some yellow note cards. These are designed for questions that you may have for our speakers, our panel after. We'll have a panel towards the end. And Jennifer Byers from the Minnesota Chamber Foundation will be joining us too. So if you have specific questions, write them on the yellow card. You can hold them up and get them to Chamber staff, and we'll make sure that we get them to the right people afterwards. So as I said, we're kicking off our 140th anniversary. This is also the wrap-up of Small Business Week. So we want to say Happy Small Business Week to everybody. Woo-hoo! Okay, that was kind of lame. Get up, stand up. Everybody up, out of your chair. Come on, let's go. We're gonna we're getting a little going on. Okay, on the count of 3, we're gonna clap and holler woo-hoo for small business. 1, 2, 3, woo-hoo! All righty. Well, we're gonna clap shortly here too, because we are moving on with our speakers today. Our first speaker today is our mayor of Fergus Falls, Anthony Hicks. Now, his first job was picking poppy seeds out of peas. And then he moved on to a career that was also involved in the peas. He traveled the world on the back of a pig. So talk to him later about that. He always has a great story to tell. He's a tea with milk drinker, and he's a dedicated leader for our city. Please welcome Mayor Hicks. If you want to use the clicker, okay. Whatever works for you.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. I'm obviously not probably quite as bouncy and as cheerful in the morning as Lisa is, but I am an early morning person. I get up early most days and still. But good morning to everyone. It is a fantastic day to be in Fergus Falls. There's a lot of great things happening around the city. And today the sun is shining and it's not quite as cold. So that's a positive thing. So basically, growth and industry strategy. The city has obviously been fairly stagnant in terms of market tax kind of base. There hasn't been a lot of growth in terms of industry and commercial property within the city, and obviously we need that as much as we need residential. And as a city, we've invested heavily in recreational facilities. Obviously, we now have an aquatic center. We've done up the lagoon. We've got the splash pad. So we've done a lot of things that are positive for people to do, when they come to the play part of Fergus. But we equally need a solid business sector that provides growth and opportunity for people. So obviously, overall, the tax department's been fairly stagnant, but there's a lot of opportunities in the city. And, we can moan as much as we like about the fact that North Dakota has this, South Dakota has that, and Alex has this, and Bemidji has that. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to, roll up our sleeves and put our boots on and actually make things happen in Fergus. We can sit on the sidelines and do nothing, or we can kind of, do something. And so, the state of Minnesota has a lot of programs, and far more assistant programs than the likes of North Dakota and South Dakota. But that does involve somebody doing paperwork, and unfortunately, we have a lot of paperwork within the state of Minnesota. But some of those programs are definitely worthwhile. And I mean, if you look at some of the MIF programs, there's a forgivable portions on those, and it's just having the right mix and the expertise to help get some of those things done. But our goal is to improve obviously infrastructure capacity, improve obviously the long-term tax base. We've been concentrating on light and medium manufacturing. One thing we do have in this community is a very diverse commercial sector. And we're focusing on homegrown expansion. A lot of businesses in Fergus, could and are looking to expand. And, I come from obviously an operational background, and where you can, we can look at efficiencies through automation, but automation comes at a cost. Nothing today is cheap, particularly when it comes to, anything that involves electronics, whether it's an automated pump or whether it's a panel that has its own PLC that can make things happen for you. But there's a lot of programs out there. To name just a few, obviously there's MIF, there's TIF. The city has business development for Fergus Falls, which has some funds and that they can loan to businesses for everything from expansion to machinery to signage. And there's a lot of potential low interest loans, and whether it's through the state or the feds and the USDA. So we're trying to use as many of those programs as we can, and it might look cumbersome. I mean, you throw in new market tax credits, but new market tax credits is an underutilized program, and that can give you up to 25%, as relief if you complete the program. So, The other thing, just to remind people of what happens in Fergus Falls, and this is a list of some of the things we make in this community, which, we take for granted a lot of these things, but we make, electronic equipment, we make windows, we make doors, we make food products, anything from bread to chocolate bars, fish processing. We make kitchen cabinets and countertops. We do plastic molding injection on multiple facilities. We do metal fabrication, for a variety of different industries that they support. We make lake equipment, docks, covers, boats and tarps. We do packaging machinery, to actually make it. We make signs, that you see up and down the interstate and the highways. We make fuel just at the ethanol plant. We do ambulance build-outs. Everybody's seen all those ambulances, that sit there. Healthcare is a big industry in our community. We're lucky to have a center-based healthcare in Fergus. It could easily disappear, and we'd be forced to go to Fergus for that. And that's just to name a few. So, and with that, we have a very broad set of skills that are in this community, from that, which makes it, that diversity is a true blessing, because if there is an industry that falters for whatever reason, it's not going to devastate our community. We're still going to be able to employ people and keep people going. The goal is to make our dollars go further. And that's been the big emphasis since I became mayor. I know we pushed that, utilizing the state and federal dollars as much as we can, not just for business expansion, but for other things. And we recently got awarded $620,000, on an 80-20 program to improve some crossings in town. We've leveraged the engineering of the city, through more engineering, and that's been a big asset to our community. We've gone from that, being a cost to the city of about $650,000 a year to it being less than $200,000. And we stabilized then the percentage of engineering costs on projects. And that was a direct savings to, obviously, everyone in here that pays property tax, whether it's on residential or businesses. We're looking at the airport. The airport is an underutilized asset for the community. It is a place where people come in and depart from. And so getting that up and running and encouraging people to come there, we invested in the fuel system. We have the cheapest aviation fuel in the area, and people will divert just to pick up fuel. And we're looking at kind of an additional hangar, and we met yesterday on that. And there's between the feds and the state, we can get up to about 95% of that actually paid by third-party funding. And a hangar today is about $1.5 million. So if we can get 95% of that paid by the state and federal, that's a positive thing. And we've applied for lead pipe service replacement, and there's a $775,000 grant application gone into that. And obviously the dairy property, we were fortunate through with the aid of Senator Rasmussen to get $4 million for that. That piece of land obviously the city has owned it for some time. It's being cleared, and we need access to it. And so that $4 million is going to help get the rail crossings into that on St. Andrews and Broadway. This year you're going to see a trail built on there, which will appear to go nowhere at this point in time, but it's going to follow, the course of the river. So, once obviously the rail crossings get in, we can then obviously you'll be able to access this, and it's going to be a great place for obviously our community. Just to kind of look at some adjusted taxable net capacity and how some of this has changed, and just looking at kind of from 22 to 25, where does the split in our community go? And if you look at residential homestead, That was, in 22 to 23, we were sitting at 46% of that was paid by private residences. Now, today, that's actually almost 50%. You'll see that commercial industry, it was at 36%, and then that's dropped down to 33%. And residential non-homestead, which would be obviously homes that are either rentals, or a second home for somebody that's not homesteaded, that's basically more or less stayed the same. It hasn't changed a whole lot. So, we've seen quite a lot of rental properties, but the shift has been between obviously private homes and commercial, and that's what we're trying to do something about. This one, one of the things that I hear a lot is life's better in Alex, and it's always better in Alex, but maybe not quite as much as you think. And market values in Alex are obviously greater than Fergus Falls, but their 2026 budget was almost $14 million, and they are about the same size as Fergus. Our budget for this year was $8.7 million. We had a tax increase of 1.8%, more or less 2%, and where Alex was 3%. And if you divide that by the population of the community, Alex sat there at 957. Detroit Lakes was 938 per person. Bemidji, was obviously more or less the same as us at 615 versus 617. But numbers matter, and Detroit Lakes, as much as the budget was kind of slightly, 500,000 more than ours, the fact that their population isn't as large, that kind of impacts, the amount you pay. So it's kind of interesting to have some sort of facts. Maybe this one. Growing the pie, I must have moved that. But this basically is looking at market value in our community, and for some reason that one I lost that one. But anyway, the taxable value in the community has grown, and today we're sitting at about $1.4 billion worth of property in Fergus. So when that grows, the levy that gets imposed on people and the homes and the businesses, it gets spread, obviously, over more of the pie. And so our goal is to keep building that pie. And you can see that there's been a steady growth. Some of that, obviously, is mainly inflationary. We haven't added a lot to that. There was a big jump in 22, 23. But that's overall, that has kind of grown. But we need it to grow more so that we can keep the pie ultimately the same. And the bottom right-hand one is the tax levy, and you can see that in the last 3 years, we've tried to hold that fairly steady. But if we can keep growing the tax base and hold the budget costs of the city, within reason, then you won't pay any more tax. Some recent wins, and obviously, the big one, it was, Chipotle, that's kind of opened and it's looking good. We've got Tuscany that opened in the old Pizza Ranch, that got up and running. We've got, obviously, the Quick Trip, that's gone through. That land has now been transferred to Quick Trip, and the zoning has been approved for that. Les Schwab is going to build where the old Pine Plaza was. SCR Solutions, from a manufacturing perspective, they're a long way down the road of being able to start on a new building, and they will obviously be adding new employees to that and skill set employees. And yesterday or Wednesday, we saw obviously the groundbreaking for Pioneer Kits, which is a big plus for our community. So the story of that is that we are growing the tax base, but it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time and patience. It takes a lot of cold calls. It takes a lot of rejection, and it takes a lot of frustration. And we go round and round and round sometimes and round, and we think it's a never ending, but the rewards are worth it. And today we have a lot of things in the pipeline. And just to kind of give an idea of, just what Quick Trip will bring to the table. The piece of land that Quick Trip has purchased to put their facility on, today the property tax on that is about $1,000 a year. If you take the top 3 gas stations in Fergus Falls, their average Otter County total property tax is around $29,000. And the city, receives about $11,000 on the average of that. And so that $11,000 will go towards diluting, the tax levy. So that's the type of growth we need within the city to alleviate. And together it will obviously bring jobs, and it will bring a new way for people to come off the interstate and come into Fergus Falls. And once we get them off, the interstate, then we've got to encourage them to go further into the community. And in some ways, Exit 54 remodel will help do that. It's going to change, the way that people come off the interstate and come into Fergus. The other thing that's happening this year is road and infrastructure improvements. And I'm not going to go through them all, but this is kind of a list of just the ones that are happening. But what I did want to do is point to the full details are on the Fergus Falls website, and there's an icon that says utility projects. And if you want updates on any of these projects and where they are, that's the best place to go. It's been a major focus of the council to improve our streets and infrastructure. As an elected official, that's probably the biggest gripe that we hear from people is, when are you going to fix this road? When is that going to get done? So you've asked, and we are delivering this year big time. And the website is extremely helpful to that. And then we talk about leveraging, and this is kind of interesting. The engineering department helped put this together, together with obviously Bill in the finance. But ultimately, there's $34 million worth of infrastructure projects in the community this year alone. And of that, the city utility funds, which is water, sewer, they're going to cover about $4.5 million of that, 13%. The bond and those that will impact tax levy is going to be $3.5 million, and that'll get amortized over 15 years. But it's only 10%. And then obviously there's assessments to residents, which will be about $1 million, which is 3%. But the state and federal funds, ultimately is almost $25 million, 73%. Now, obviously, the big one of that, of course, is Exit 54, which accounts for about 19 million of that, of which we as a community are paying. Actual direct cost of that is about $111,000. And there's going to be some frustration, obviously, I'm sure, towards the end of summer when people kind of wanted it to be open sooner. But all of these things are going to be worth it. I mean, they've already started on Cleveland. Then it's going to be after that they're going to move to Cavour. But all of these things, there's no gain without pain, as they say, and there's no place in Fergus that's safe this year from road construction. And this map just kind of highlights where it's all taking place. Whether it's obviously, just outside the door here, whether it's in ward, every ward is being touched. And so, there's mill and overlays going on, there's seal coats, there's major repairs going on. The Douglas Street is going to get done so that next year we can do South Union, because that one's another one that's in need of repair. But it's just more to highlight exactly, where you go. And downtown's going to be good. So that's a place where you need to go, is go downtown and get that done. But just to wrap up, um, we're here to assist, and it's like everything. Nothing happens in a vacuum, and certainly economic development does not. And it takes a team. And James, we took James on board to lead that team. And I want to just thank obviously James for his energy that he's brought to this subject. But he is heavily supported by Clara, who's in the room, who doesn't get necessarily as much recognition for everything that she equally does towards economic development. I think people see community development and think it's all warm and fuzzy stuff, but most of it is. But she's also a critical part of what we do. And Mike is a master of making cold calls. That guy does not mind making cold calls to anybody, whether they're, however high up a corporation they may be. But we're all pushing hard to make a growth of our tax base in the city. And I mean, I think from personal experience, I visited quite a number of businesses with James, and we've got a lot of pent-up frustration and energy in this community about wanting to grow. And there's not been a leadership or an energy or an enthusiasm to help those people get through all of the programs that the state does offer. And so that's been our job. And hopefully you will see some more work that we've been working on, and we just can't talk about at this point in time until something gets done. But there's going to be another one hopefully here pretty soon that is going to start applying for TIF and MIF, and get that one on the books and see another piece of growth in the community. So with that. I don't know what time we have, but I just rambled on. And so it is now it's now up to me, because obviously I got told by Lisa that I had to do this, and I listen to Lisa all the time. And so representing District 5 is Commissioner Sean Sullivan, who is going to be your next entertainer. And he's here to share a vision for Otter County. He's a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service. Once operated nuclear reactors, and a former Fargo Forum paperboy. Sean takes his coffee black and his leadership seriously. Join me in welcoming Commissioner Sullivan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Great information, and appreciate the hard work that the Mayor and the City Council have been doing this session. So, again, good morning. My name is Sean Sullivan, Otter County Commissioner, District 5, which does represent Fergus Falls. And what I want to talk about is what we're doing here at the county level and why I feel good about where we're headed. Now, our approach, I don't have any slides, so I do have one. Yeah. Oh, I do have one slide. Perfect. There's my one slide. Yes. Isn't that beautiful? There you go. So our approach is pretty simple. We don't think it's necessarily the county's job to be the primary driver of economic development, but we like to say, and as Mr. Leonard likes to say, we like to be supportive and additive. And I think that's a good way to frame it. If a government can be there to remove barriers, fill gaps, fill needs, and honestly kind of just not get in the way, I think that's how we can best serve the business community in this town. Nobody has ever walked up to me in the grocery store or the gas station and said, I wish government was more involved in my life. So, and if they did, I'd probably walk away quickly. So that'd be kind of strange. People want less red tape, lower costs, and the freedom to build and create something, and just want to make sure that their taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely. Now, I take that seriously. I come from a commercial lending background. And I look at public spending in the same way I used to look at loan proposals. And what's the return? What's the risk? What's our exit strategy? Is this the best use of our dollars? Those types of things. And the rest of the board does too. Unfortunately, the state doesn't always make that easy for us. The state is very, very good at passing down unfunded mandates to the county without the money to pay for them, mandates without the money to pay for them. And they get to say they balance the budget, but county property taxpayers pick up the tab. And that's not balancing a budget. That's a cost shift. And we can't just complain about it, though. We do complain about it loudly. But we have to focus on what we can control. And so the county's looked at what actually makes a difference in rural communities, and as part of the county's, excuse me, I have allergies there, buddy. As part of the county's long-term strategic plan, developed in, I think, 2021 or 2020, they identified 4 things. And this long-range strategic plan is on our website, too. It's a great document to review. Other presenters will get into more details about some of these things. I'm just going to touch the highlights. So first, excuse me, first is infrastructure. Roads, bridges, broadband, water, sewer, solid waste, garbage. You know, we've got over 1,100 miles of paved roads in Otter Tail County. I think that's more than any other county in the state. You know, we burn 50,000 tons of garbage up in Perham at our incinerator up there and turn that into 10,000 tons worth of ash, and we got to do something with that. We need, it's not really exciting work all the time, but it's super important. You know, businesses need to move product from point A to point B. Families need broadband. We got to do something with the garbage. If the basics aren't there, the rest of the conversation doesn't matter. And one aside, you know, first of all, kudos to the mayor and the city council for their focus on infrastructure. And one kind of win we're having with ours is up at the Perham incinerator. We're taking some of that ash, and instead of landfilling it, we're in a pilot project where we're putting that in as a road base. And so if we're able to keep that stuff out of the landfill, that's just going to be a huge win for the county. So, second is, I'm not going in any order. Second is workforce. Oh, thanks. Second is workforce. Labor force across the state is flat. There seems like there's 2 openings for every job seeker. I'm preaching to the choir here. You all know what it's like trying to find, hire, retain, keep good employees. And that is not changing anytime soon. So what we've done at the county, we started something called the Empowered Worker Program. And I'm going to let Amy Baldwin talk more in detail about that. But really what it is just a way to lift up those people that are having barriers to employment, getting them back in the workforce, whatever it might be, transportation, training, life circumstances, lifting them up, getting into careers that you people as business owners need. It's just been a great program, and even won an award, and I won't steal Amy's thunder there, but it's a pretty exciting program. The other piece we keep hearing about around labor force is childcare. The mayor touched on that too. Huge issue. We have we need over 400 slots, or we have a need of 400 slots in Fergus Falls. And as the mayor said a couple days ago, we broke ground over at Pioneer Care for some twin homes that will support child care providers, and that'll be 60 slots, I believe, over there. So a huge win for us, but we still got a ways to go. So, but child care is super important. It's really an infrastructure issue. It's a workforce issue. So third is getting on the map. Quality of life here in Fergus Falls is very, very real. Lakes, recreation, schools, community. I really believe we punch above our weight class as a county. It's a wonderful place to live. We have more lakes in Otter Tail County than any state any county in the nation, and there's a lot to offer here. But none of that matters if people don't know about it. And telling our story is on all of us. We have Otter Tail Lakes Country does a great job with that. County, city, chamber, economic development, business leaders. It's on all of us to tell our story to make sure that Otter Tail County is a good place to live, work, and play. So. Fourth is welcoming communities. This one is hard to put in a policy. You can't legislate welcoming communities necessarily, but it's whether people feel like they belong here, whether a new family can plug in, a new business owner feels supported, a young person wants to come back after college. The businesses here today being honored through the Business Gives program is a great example of welcoming communities. I mean, you're not just here, you're invested in this community of Fergus Falls, and we really appreciate that. That's what makes people want to stay, and it's not something government can necessarily create. So look, I think we got the right approach. Support as a county government, we support the private sector as much as we can. We don't try to replace it. We take care of the infrastructure, help people get to work, tell our story about Otter Tail County, be champions for Otter Tail County, and make this a place that people want to be. The growth that you're hearing about here, the growth happening here isn't because of some state program, it's because of the people in this room. And the best thing we can do is keep that simple through fiscal discipline, less government interference, and more results. So with that, my remarks are much, much briefer than the mayor's. I will turn it over. I'm going to introduce Amy Baldwin from Otter Tail County. Amy is the Community Development Director for Otter Tail County. When she's not driving regional growth, she's occasionally officiating weddings for friends. So there you go, if anybody needs a wedding. Or reminiscing about her first job at a national wildlife refuge. She likes her coffee straight and her community impact strong. Please welcome Amy.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. All right, I think I saw a clicker. There it is. All right, thank you. So again, Amy Baldwin, I'm with Otter Tail County, and I hope there's a lot of black coffee drinkers. I'm a little suspect of people who aren't black coffee drinkers. Sorry, especially early in the morning. All right, no worries though if you aren't. All right, so as mentioned, we focus on a lot of shared strategies across, and shared meaning we're looking at other partners, other organizations, our private sector partners to really accomplish these shared strategies that Commissioner Sullivan highlighted. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the components that relate in our community development area, and starting with everyone's favorite topic, housing. At least it's my favorite topic. So while there's been a lot of growth in housing over the last number of years, there still remains really significant needs across the county for new housing growth. So, we work at the county to try to bring people together around the topic, provide funding resources, provide technical assistance, connect people with whether it is state money or other funding to make a project move forward. But we have gotten more into the direct development role in the last couple of years. So I wanted to highlight just a couple of those projects that saw significant growth in 2025. And I should mention, I did bring copies of our annual report from 2025, and they are on the table over in the side of the room here. So if you want to look at any of these pieces in more depth, you can get that information there, as well as other work that we're doing that I'm not going to cover today. All right, the first project is Pinewood Estates up in Pelican Rapids, and here we leveraged an opportunity of a piece of land that the county highway garage had been located on, and that's the picture. You can see the before there. Had a small structure that we wasn't functional anymore, and so there was an opportunity, and really the community had built up around this 3-acre parcel. So it was a great opportunity to bring new single-family residential into Pelican Rapids, and so through the Community Development Agency, we are acting as the lead developer for this project. We've platted it, cleared that structure, had a little bit of soil remediation from some activity that had been happening there over the years with the highway folks, and ultimately, installed the infrastructure for that 9-lot subdivision, partnering with the city there, and we were able to use cash reserves to install that street, sewer, water, to really reduce the cost for those future homeowners there and not assess them for those parcels for the assessments for the infrastructure. We created a tax increment financing district that will be refunding and repaying for those expenses as new homes are built. And last year we took the lead in getting a jump start on that and built 3 single-family homes that you can see on the bottom right. Entry level, about 1,300 square feet with an unfinished basement. And those homes were sold to homeowners that were existing Pelican Rapids residents. So it was great to see there was a demand for folks to find a new housing product right in their community. That was done with support from Minnesota Housing, so we were able to leverage a program there. We have sold 2 of the other lots to local residents who plan to build their own homes, and then we plan to build 2 more homes with support from Minnesota Housing in the next couple of years. The other project is a little different role where we just played kind of a preparation role in this project in Battle Lake called the Lincoln. And the city had identified a blighted parcel. You can see that was when demolition was starting there on a property that had really gone into disrepair, had some issues really close to their downtown core. And the city thought it really could use have another opportunity. And so we worked with the city council and the EDA to assess what was their vision for that parcel, and landed on workforce housing because as we talked to employers in the area, they were really struggling to have places, particularly for larger families, to find a rental opportunity or a housing opportunity in the community. So the project is 10, 2, and 3 bedrooms. There's no 1 bedrooms in this project that ultimately came together. And so we purchased the parcel, cleared it, took care of readying it for development, and then solicited developers to see who had interest and was able to find a local developer who now has constructed what you see on the bottom there. If you've driven by, it's definitely a change. It's just a half-acre lot, but brought in new housing opportunity. This has about 5 or maybe 6 funding sources that made this happen. So even though it's a small project, relatively small, big impact for Battle Lake, but it took a lot of players to come together and figure out how to make it financially viable for the developer. So the developer purchased the land and we were out, except for some financing part of that. So shifting gears off housing and going to childcare, as mentioned, it's a huge issue across the county. Many of us, or a number of us in the room, were at that groundbreaking this week, which was great to see that progress here in Fergus Falls. At the county, we've, for a number of years, been able to leverage some funding from West Central Initiative that provides allows us to contract with some area individuals who have expertise in the area of childcare, and they can help communities figure out what is that community solution. They were very involved in the Pioneer-led project and have been working in other communities as well to really assess what is the community's opportunity and what does it look like for them to have a localized childcare solution for what they have. They might have a facility that could be repurposed, or is it a ground-up construction? So highlighted here, we help with both that technical assistance and navigating for communities, existing providers, and new providers coming into the childcare space. We also help on that technical side from our staff in grant writing or finding funds to help make projects viable and happen. So we worked with the City of Ottertail and a local nonprofit there to secure $240,000 from the state to help advance a project very similar to what is moving forward here in Fergus Falls with those duplex model where providers can operate. They opened in February of this year, had way more interest for providers than what they had space for. So they had to be selective in who gets to operate there. So and Pioneer has met with them and toured the space and learned from what they learned. So that's another bridge that we do, is help people learn from each other on these projects and help make the next project even better than the last. All right, going over to workforce. Again, huge need for everyone. We've had at the county for 5 years now what we call OTC Works as our workforce strategy. And we're currently refreshing that strategy. We've been engaging with business stakeholders, education, both K-12 and higher ed with M-State, and understanding, what are they experiencing? What are they seeing on trend lines from their perspectives? What are their industries saying about the future of workforce or preparing our workforce for the future? So what we want to learn from that is what is our role? What gaps are there that the county can play to help fulfill those workforce needs, and using that to help inform what our strategy looks like going forward. We also, use data a lot. I'm not going to get into the details of this chart, but just a high level of how we're tracking. This is from 2015 to 2025, showing our labor force, the participation in the labor force, as well as the correlating unemployment rate. So what we can see, though, on the far right is unemployment is starting to go up, meaning there's a slight softening. It's still a tight labor market for sure, but there's trends that we need to watch and know what's happening locally, what's happening at state level, and what's happening at the national level when it comes to labor force and labor availability. All right, so as previewed by Commissioner Sullivan, one of our big initiatives out of OTC Works has been the Empowered Worker Program. And this is a county-initiated program that we, when we were doing, talking to stakeholders a number of years back about, where was our role at that time, this was really identified and really came through loud and clear from our internal case managers. So whether it's a probation agent or someone working in our human services department, they were saying, there's programs for some people if they have certain qualifications, but they were still seeing a gap on how they were able to serve people from a workforce perspective and help them get into household sustaining employment opportunities. So we were able to put together a kind of a concept of a program, what we thought it would work, and then ultimately successful in obtaining state funding. West Central Initiative has provided us some funding, and we had some one-time COVID recovery dollars still at the county that we've put together for this 3-year pilot program that we're about a year and a half into. So we knew there was a population of people, if they just needed some additional support, some individualized navigation to help them fulfill what their potential was. So really working with them on a one-on-one basis, working with our employers, many of them in the room here, who were providing job shadow opportunities and employment ultimately to help these individuals just make a new path for themselves. So with that individualized work, we're really able to work to get the credential training in an in-demand area, so whether it's healthcare or CDL or any number of other areas that we were able to do that. Last year, we had 88 referrals, and again, majority of those are coming from internal to the county, someone who already has a relationship with somebody in human services or another department and helping. They can see the potential in that person, but they don't have the time or expertise to help them overcome those barriers that they might be facing to get into an employment opportunity. MState's been an amazing training partner with us, so we really appreciate their partnership. What I will say, there's a QR code. I should have started with that, so you're welcome to take your phone out. That is a link to videos of several participants in the program that talk about their success, how they've been supported, and their appreciation for the program. So you can go to the county's YouTube channel to access that or grab the QR code here. So we're hopeful in extending this and showing that return on investment. Commissioner Sullivan mentioned that as well. When we do our work, we're making sure it makes sense. Is this the right way to spend our limited resources? And our early numbers are showing that it is, that we as what's invested in these individuals is turning around and creating an impact both from their employment, so their work that they're doing, the taxes they're generating, as well as transitioning off of economic supports or having less recidivism if it's in a probation or a justice-involved individual. So we're really starting to be able to show that, and we think this 3-year window will be able to really provide that story once we get there. All right, and then just wrapping out, our business development, again, is in a more of a supportive role in what we do there, but we last year did secure the $650,000 from the state to support, hopefully, more work at the mall area here in Fergus Falls. The theater separation took place, so they were physically separated from systems at the mall, and that was funded out of these dollars. So we'll see what comes next. There's a lot of uncertainty there, unfortunately. But we continue to work with our community partners. We offer matching grants for community business rehabilitation through our grant program and continue to share out information on using our channels to get information out to folks. And then overall, again, the outreach and communication. If you're not getting our newsletters and want to get information, whether it's housing specific or our workforce newsletters or our generalized newsletters, see me and I can get you added to those lists. But we send those out periodically throughout the year when there's information that we want to make sure is getting in the hands of our stakeholders. We also do press releases and a lot of social activity to get the word out on things that we're doing. Looking ahead, still a focus on housing. We'll be building single-family homes in a few communities. Over the next couple years, we plan to break ground on affordable senior housing in New York Mills yet this year with some funding that we got committed in the last couple months. And then really think about what does the future of the Empowered Worker Program and our overall workforce strategy look like going forward. And certainly continuing to partner and collaborate with all the partners throughout the county. Again, just to mention that we have our annual reports on the table, so if you have any questions, happy to connect anytime to talk further about the information I've shared. All right, so I get the honor to introduce Tasha. Tasha Rohlfs is the brand ambassador for Otter Tail Lakes Country, and she's an entrepreneur at heart. Tasha once ran a successful Etsy empire, shipping elf-on-the-shelf kits nationwide. I've known Tasha for years. I didn't know that. She's a former Mall of America denim expert who drinks her vanilla oat milk lattes iced, even in the Minnesota blizzards. Welcome, Tasha.
Thanks, Amy. All right, so first person to raise your hand and tell me how many lakes are in Otter Tail County, get a free Otter ears. How many lakes? Oop, you were already on it. All right, come grab your ears, Kate. And the rule is you have to, yeah, Kate, you got it, 1,048. Woo-woo, give it up for Kate. And you have to wear them the rest of the morning. All right, let me get myself familiarized up here. Otter Tail Lakes Country is responsible for putting Otter Tail County on the map. On the map. We believe in making sure that everyone across the county knows where Otter Tail County is and who we are. And they want to think of us as an ideal destination. So we work with a lot of different corporations, businesses, partners around the county to make sure that we're putting Otter Tail County on the map. And just in September, the Star Tribune published an article saying, basically, what are all of you other counties doing? Otter Tail County is in the lead promoting themselves, and I don't see this happening anywhere else. And they also gave props to our incredible marketing campaign, which is our adorable Otter, and the Find Your Inner Otter campaign, which was released in about 2016, in an effort to combat the brain drain that the county was predicting, and hopefully with some efforts in tourism and resident recruitment, we would see more of a brain gain happening. And so looking at Amy's graph that she had up there, you would see that compared to the red dotted line that was going downward, we're doing pretty good. So we think that our impact is having an effect. And let's talk about impact. We think that this is pretty incredible. When we are putting out our Google impressions nationwide to make sure that Otter Tail County is seen on the national stage, we're seeing traffic. We're seeing people looking at, identifying our image, getting to our website, and finding out about this incredible region. And maybe, just maybe, booking a trip here and thinking of us as Lakes Country, not Brainerd, right? Not anywhere else. And so we think of this as impact, and this is pretty incredible. We are the county's official resource for resident recruitment, and we do that by means of tourism. Tourism isn't just about leisure, it's about livelihood. When you think about a bustling downtown and people coming to your destination, Then there's something called the halo effect that happens, where they love your destination and they think, hey, maybe I could see myself living here. Maybe I could see myself opening a business here, investing in this community. And that's what we really want to see when we're talking about tourism. And we are a partner organization, so our efforts are supported by our partners, so many of which are in this room. Thank you so much for your incredible foresight to put Otter Tail County on the map and support our efforts. So many businesses, resorts, hotels, boutiques, shops, restaurants, destinations believe in partnering with us, and communities, Fergus Falls being one of them, believe in partnering with us and making sure that our efforts are significant. So many large corporations and large businesses you'll see from this community support this effort to put Otter Tail County on the map. And you're like, wait, this isn't tourism. These are businesses, right? But that is the funnel. They start as visitors, and we get them as residents. And these companies, so many of you care about that talent pipeline. And that's what we're trying to do, turn those visitors into future residents. So a little bit about our efforts. One of the things that we're maybe most known for is our incredible magazine, 30,000 printed at 432 distribution points. And that's just mind-blowing when you think about it. So Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport, Fargo Hector Airport, Mall of America, to name a few of the larger ones. But then, yeah, Victor Lundine's bookstore, Service Food, anywhere in really the tri-state area and beyond, you'll find our magazine and our new really awesome trail map insert, which if you've unfolded it, I was in a business in Wadena, and he unfolded and put it immediately on the wall. He was a big biker. He was like, this is the best thing ever. And so that's one of our biggest efforts to really put Otter Tail County on the map. Also, our social media impact is huge. 2025 was a record-breaking year for us. And I say this to really emphasize, 29 million impressions on social media across our channels, up 43% from the previous year. Our goal was 22 million. So this blew us out of the water when we figured that out. We're trying to get where people's attention is. It's on their phones. They're scrolling nonstop all day. We need to be there. And then we got over 1 million people to press a button. That's total engagement. So over 1 million clicks, like, share, comment. Over 1 million people pressed a button, up 33% from the previous year. And video views, we all know that's where it's at. 1.7 million video views, up 118% from the previous year. When you're talking tourism, people want to see, what does that experience look like? What are those destinations? What are those resorts? What are those restaurants? And so we've really invested a lot in the video experience as well. And that's how we build brand. That's how we build awareness. And our social audience size is almost at 50,000. This has been so exciting to see grow. I mean, compared in 2024 to 38,000, and that's all organic. That's organic. We post 7 to 8 times a day across our channels, and it's organic. And what I mean by that is we're not sharing content. We talk to our partners, we grab their images, we create cool graphics, and we share it organically because that gets a lot more attention than just sharing something. We also believe in making sure that people know that there is so much going on in Otter Tail County, and that we're not gonna live just in our Fergus Falls bubble, but we're gonna go across the county as residents sometimes too to travel and see all the incredible events happening. So our events page on our website and our event posts on social media get a huge amount of traffic. And so we really believe in making sure that visitors and residents are experiencing all the incredible events happening. Next is a really cool opportunity where we've partnered with the University of Minnesota as a Gopher Sports partner. So when you think alumni network, Twin Cities traffic, Gopher experiences, Gopher fans, our name, our image is up in so many of those arenas and so many of those experiences. And we also have done name, image, likeness visits with Gopher athletes, brought them up to Otter Tail County, given them tours of some local industries and businesses, brought them out fishing, and changed their rural narrative. That's the purpose, to make sure that they are now becoming ambassadors of our region. And they're posting about it, and they're sharing their experiences. Max Brosmer came up 2 to 3 times as a Gopher in an NIL visit, and then last summer just reached out to us and was like, I had a ton of fun. Can I come up again? And we were like, well, yeah, but you're gonna pay this time because you have a contract with the Vikings now, right? And so that was really awesome to make sure that we're transforming those experiences for those individuals. Really cool logo opportunity in the hockey arena as well, and then really amazing logo opportunity in Huntington Bank Stadium, right in the end zone there. And the Otter has been on the court with Goldie multiple times at basketball games. So again, those Twin City residents, alumni network, Gopher fans, Ottertail County is just becoming a secondhand name for them. And that's our goal, that we want them to think vacation, Lakes Country, Ottertail County. Our mascot also had a record-breaking year last year with over 30 appearances across the county. Previously, the mascot had only been at photo shoots with partners and communities, but we decided we wanted him to get out and about to all of the community festivals. So opening day of the Aquatic Center, the summer reading kickoff day at the library, and the Lake Region Run, the Otter was there. And I can also tell you the Otter will also be at opening day of the library this year, library kickoff, and at Lake Region Run again this year as well. So super exciting opportunities there. We also believe in investing in professional imagery. So we have a world-class photographer who has Pelican Rapids Tides and resides part-time in Pelican Rapids, who does some pretty incredible photos for us. Last summer, we got the Otter on a jet ski. That was so cool. And it was at my in-laws' place, and they magically had a life jacket big enough for the Otter because he has big muscles if you've seen him in person. And so we did do the safety thing and got a life jacket on him. But these images have been used far and wide, and all of our communities, Battle Lake, Fergus, Perham, we want to make sure that they're promoting themselves to the utmost ability as well. So we share those professional images with every community that partners with us, which is all of the major communities, because we want them to have billboards, social media, print advertising. That's incredible too. And that might not be a resource that they could normally invest in. So we really try to take care of our partners in a really amazing marketing-minded way. So then here's the link from visitors to then residents. We have a jobs portal on our website. Almost 2,000 clicks in April alone, which is pretty incredible. And so our jobs portal is a smart portal. It grabs jobs across the internet that are in Ottertail County and posts them, but then partners will reach out to us and be like, oh, I'm not seeing our job on there, and we pop it right on there for them. So that's a really great link to get the visitors turned into residents. And then now for a really exciting new development that you guys are one of the first audiences to hear about is a new campaign called the Giants of Ottertail County. You have a card at your table showing you this exciting road trip adventure, a must-see adventure that we hope will increase visitation, encourage collaboration across communities, and also drive regional pride. So we believe these are the top 10 giants to see in and around Ottertail County. And this is such an exciting campaign because Ottertail County has one of the highest concentrations of large statues of anywhere in America. So when you're talking about that niche tourism market of roadside attractions, we think we're kind of hitting a home run here. So we've got Rohlfs, the Prairie Chicken, we've got Pelican Pete, Fergus Loon, Frazee Turkey, because we believe in being region first minded. We know they're just slightly outside the bounds of Ottertail County, but that's okay. New York Mills Tractor, I went there for the first time yesterday. That is massive. That's massive. The Otter and Ottertail, Vining Watermelon, Rusty the Fish in Battle Lake, the Coot in Ashby, and of course, the Otter in Fergus Falls. And so this is going to be a really exciting adventure that we hope everyone will play and participate in this summer. The cutoff is August 31st to turn in your cards at one of the destinations for a pair of otter ears. Aw, Kate. Oh, thank you. Okay, good. Now they're back on. For a pair of otter ears and a free pass to Otter Cove Children's Museum, where you will see a giant installation, an interactive installation of the giants at Otter Cove, which is pretty cool. On the back is the how to play, various locations to pick up and drop off your card. So yeah, but the only catch here, you're not allowed to post on social media for like a week and a half until we do our initial post. And then share. Got it? Capiche? My first grader. Kaposh. Mom, kaposh. So we really hope that more exploration leads to more visitors, stronger local economy, and thriving communities, which we think Fergus, as reported today, we're really on our way. We're so grateful for our partners, our communities, and all of you for making Otter Tail County great. Keep being incredible ambassadors of this region and tell everybody about our 1,048 lakes, okay? Capiche? Kaposh. I now have the honor of welcoming up Rolando with Visit Fergus Falls. He is an award-winning photographer who had a short film selected at the Cannes Film Festival. Rolando is the executive director of Visit Fergus Falls, whose first job was as a theater actor. Love it. From Italy and South America to Miami and Minnesota, Rolando brings global perspective on tourism and takes his coffee, or espresso, as it should be. Strong, black with brown sugar. I'm gonna have to try that. Please welcome up Rolando.
Good morning, everybody. I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and talk a little bit about what are our plans for 2026 and what we do, because Visit Fergus Falls is kind of a program that is working in the background of your computer, but is helping everything to function. So Visit Fergus Falls, I cannot, where are my slides? Oh, right here. Oh, there you go. All right. Talking about the importance of tourism, I wanted to start this with this number. From March 2025 to March 2026, Fergus Falls received $14.2 million just from visitors to our town. So I wanted to show you this number so you can understand the importance of tourism in the economics of Fergus Falls. But that doesn't happen by just coincidence. Right now, you have to, every town in Minnesota is competing for visitors right now. Every town has their own social media, their own promotions. Every town is competing from visitors in Minnesota and in Otter Tail County as well. So you have to stay visible, you have to stay relevant, and you have to be an easy choice. So how do we do that? How tourism growth happens? First, we generate demand. So what is this? We do promotional campaigns, digital campaigns, and social media campaigns hitting all the state of Minnesota and all the states surrounding Minnesota. We do Google campaigns because we go straight to the people that we want to visit, that we want to visit us. So the campaigns has been super successful, driving more than 100,000 people to our website every year. The second point would be convert interest. Okay, I'm sorry about that. You see the content, you get the ad, and you say, oh, this looks good. I'm gonna click, and I'm gonna go to the website. And then when you go to the website, that curiosity converts into an intent for a trip, in a good case scenario. Then you support experience, because when people come, they have to have a great experience, and that's why Visit Fergus Falls all the time is helping with our events through grants. This year, by the way, we're gonna have $15,000 available for grants for people who wants to create an event in Fergus Falls, or for events that want a bump or wants growth in their event. So you can apply in our website, follow us in Facebook, follow us in Instagram, spread the voice, because for the first time ever, we have such a great amount of money to help the community to create events or to, enforce events that already exist. And then you extend the impact. This year we are going to tackle the Bigwood Event Center. The Bigwood Event Center, this great facility where we are right now, it needs a little bit of help to start generating more bookings and more activity. So this year, Visit Fergus Falls is building a brand new website for the Bigwood. And we are hiring a consultant to tell us about what's the situation with the Bigwood, what we can do, and what are going to be the next steps, to make the Bigwood to get more bookings and more demand. So Visit Fergus Falls basically work on several pillars. The number one is our website, that, by the way, was named one of the top 3 destination websites by Explore Minnesota in the last year. So, woohoo! Our website is constantly, uploading videos, new content, blogs, so people can see there everything we have, every asset we have. And they can actually, download itineraries. That website makes the experience pretty easy to come and visit Fergus Falls. The second one is direct marketing. That's what I was talking about. We hit all the state of Minnesota and all the states surrounding Minnesota, including Winnipeg, and including some other cities that visit our website very frequently. So we say, oh, you're visiting us? Okay, we're hitting you with that immediately. So one of those cases is Chicago, that is being visited our website for in a great amount of people. So we are hitting Chicago with that to visit Fergus Falls also. So the 3 pillar is content creation. Visit Fergus Falls creates its own content. We don't hire photographers, we don't hire videographers, we do everything in-house. So that gives us a possibility to divert all that money that we should spend in materials, in video, in photos, and everything, to spend it in some of other things, like the grant for the community, or what we're going to do with the Bigwood Event Center. But content creation is one of the tops, because you got to show what you have to sell it, basically. Then we do local promotions. We promote every event here in town. And then we do customer service. We need to answer questions from visitors that goes to my office, from people that write emails, from answers from, questions from the website. We need to be with them, and we need to make their experience the best possible when they visit us, actually. And also, the last one would be grow key assets. That is what I talked to you about the Bigwood Event Center. This is the main conferences place in Fergus Falls, and we're gonna give it some love this year. So these are the numbers that we're gonna go this year. Just for operations, it's gonna be $113,000. For marketing, we're gonna do $162,000 this year, for a total investment of $276,000. One of the challenges that we have this year is the closing of the exit 54, because we have so many hotels and so many businesses right here in the entrance. So what Visit Fergus Falls is doing, we put 2 billboards on the I-94, guiding people to go to exit 55. And one is, from one on each direction. And then we're gonna put signage from the exit 55 to guide people to our businesses. So if you see, 30% of our budget is gonna go to digital and social campaigns, 25% to content creation, 15% to destination development, and 20% in events and sponsorships. So what all this does? Number one is there's a growth in visitor spending. As I told you, that amount, 14.2 million, doesn't include Wapeton or Breckenridge or Pelican Rapids or Battle Lake. This is from 50 miles and away. So that number is not completed. So the number two would be higher event attendance. You know, we actually made the first experiment doing a Google campaign for the Over the River Festival. And that year we saw a huge amount of people. It was pretty difficult to even find parking in downtown that day. So the other one would be a stronger regional awareness. You know, the fact that Visit Fergus Falls has been named in the Explore Minnesota Awards in the last 2 years is great because our name is already sounding in that community. So, and increase website traffic. Increased website traffic is increasing possibilities of people making plans to visit and leave their money here for some days. And then, thank you so much. So, I guess we're gonna have a questions, a panel, okay. So, if you have any questions, write it and then shut it out right here. Thank you so much.
All righty, everyone. So, as I said, if you need to fill up coffee, water, empty it, whatever, feel free to move about as you need. Again, I'm Lisa Workman with the Fergus Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, and as I mentioned, we are kicking off our 140th anniversary, 140 years of impact in our community. Now, we've talked a lot about vision for the future, but first let's roll back the clock 140 years to 1886. And what did the world look like then? Well, can you imagine the world without Coke or Diet Coke? Like crazy, right? So the first concoction of Coke, as we know it, or Coca-Cola, was developed in 1886 by a pharmacist in Atlanta. Okay, there's a good fun fact for you for today. The Statue of Liberty, a gift from France, was dedicated in the New York Harbor in 1886. A long-standing tribute to freedom and following the American dream. And the picture with the big wheels, that is the first patented automobile, patented by Carl Benz in 1886. Can you imagine driving that down roads today? Which is the next picture, Fergus Falls, 1886. Gravel roads only traveled by horse and buggy. Picture that ride. Keep that image in your head as you traverse construction this summer. Don't want to hear any more complaining, okay? Enough said. And of course, I put a picture on the bottom of the Fergus Falls State Hospital, which wasn't constructed and opened until 1890. So when the Chamber of Commerce was developed and formed in 1886, there were a lot of developments going on throughout the world that we just take for granted today. Back in 1886, there were businessmen that got together and said, you know, we can accomplish more working together to improve the economic prosperity of our community than working alone. And their 4 pillars, based on their original Articles of Incorporation and their mission statement back in 1886, was to facilitate fair trade, to have ethical commerce. They actually, through the Chamber of Commerce, worked on disputes in commerce. We don't do that anymore. We leave that up to the Better Business Bureau. Shared intelligence, so common knowledge amongst each other, sharing information, which is one of the things that we continue to do today. And again, general prosperity, advance the business interests of all of Fergus Falls. The famous Nick Leonard, rising tide floats all boats, was a theory and their practices and their initiatives back then. So now let's move forward 140 years, just like that. Strategic priorities for 2026 for the Fergus Falls Chamber. Now, after successfully navigating COVID, which we could all give ourselves a pat on the back for that, we went through a building renovation in 2018. And 5 years ago, our chamber board of directors and community stakeholders got together and said, what are going to be the big things that we're going to be working on moving forward? Number one being facilitate business-to-business relationships. Today is a prime example of that. We set the stage for businesses to get together and strengthen relationships, whether it's at the State of the Business Community, a membership mixer, a golf tournament, chamber cafe. Again, we're setting the stage for you to build and strengthen those relationships. Another one of our priorities is to leverage government liaisons. We have direct connections with city leaders, county leaders, state and federal. We are your voice. We know that as a business community, if you stand out in support or against a proposal, it could damage your business. You will likely offend someone. Has anyone ever offended anyone before? Like, is there any polarizing going on or taking? Anyhow, we collect your stories and we share those stories and potential impacts with decision makers. We also bring together business leaders from finance, from Congress, from all over the place to meet one-on-one with our business leaders so that they can share their stories one-on-one rather than in a large group. So again, I always tell folks, I'm like, I feel like I'm your shield. I'll collect all the ammunition or all the battle armor, and then I'll go to bat for you. I'll speak on your behalf so that you don't have to. So we're here to advocate for you. And then we're going to focus in a little bit deeper dive on 3 of our strategic priorities: driving local economic growth, shop local, supporting workforce strategies, and inspiring community vitality. So driving local economic growth. Chambers are well known across the country, probably across the world, for driving local economic growth. You may know it as Shop Local. Some of the initiatives that we're working on this year included the Cone Zone. So what we want to do is provide resources and information for our businesses to traverse what will be what I'm going to affectionately refer to, and plant this in your head, the summer of pavement progress. Doesn't that have a better ring to it than road construction? Let's all say it. The summer of pavement progress. Well, I think you got to work on that one, but take that back to work. Get everybody thinking about that. Again, we want to provide resources, marketing. We have a Cone Zone page on our website where we're tied to MnDOT, the city projects. We are also doing some marketing featuring Gus Chamberlain. How many of you were at the member mixer at Mabel Murphy's before construction? Saw the big green guy? Okay, I'm a little blue guy, I guess. We have the wacky waving Gus Chamberlain. He's a green inflatable that we're going to be taking to destinations that are in the Cone Zone throughout the summer. So we'll have featured businesses on Thursdays that we'll be sharing and promoting. If you are in the Cone Zone and want to be featured, let Amy Callan, our Director of Membership and Marketing, know about that. But those are some of the projects and priorities that we're working on when it comes to promoting local commerce. We're also going to be rolling out our second year in partnership with Visit Fergus Falls of the Super Summer Savings Card. You want to say that? Try saying that one. Super Summer Savings Card. Okay, so we're going to have that, and there'll be about 30 different offers that are on there to support local businesses, and those are free discount cards that we'll offer to hotel guests as well as residents around the community, just encouraging you to get out and about in the community. And one of the other things that we've done for many, many years are Fergus Bucks. Over $1 million circulated in our local business community in the lifetime of Fergus Bucks. That is stunning. That's all money that was stayed here locally because folks bought Fergus Bucks. How many of you carry a checkbook? Yeah, I do. I carry a checkbook. That's archaic. Like, that technology, you hand it to a teenage cashier and they're like, what is this? They have no idea what it is. So we are announcing officially that Fergus Bucks is going to bed. We'll be, as soon as we've got about $5,000 left in Fergus bucks. After that, they will not exist. You can still spend them, so please get out there and spend them. The accounts remain open, but what they've been are a prepaid check that you can spend at chamber members. Hopefully soon, chamber cash card. We're looking for, we haven't made all of our decisions and everything yet, but we want to roll out in time for the Christmas season a Visa-based card that can be used at Fergus Falls Chamber members. Could it be used other places? That's a secret. But coming soon. So we're going to make this happen. Come road construction, pavement progress. It's going to happen, so watch for that. We know that keeping money locally is what keeps our businesses successful as well as our nonprofits thriving. So that's some of the initiatives that we're working on driving local economic growth. Supporting workforce strategies. We've heard over and over again from Otter Tail County, from the city, from Otter Tail Lakes Country, we need to have people here. We are bucking the trends statewide as far as recruiting folks. Our employers do a fantastic job of recruiting people to our community, but we also need young people to know about these great opportunities right here in Fergus Falls. Okay, I'm going to ask another question. How many of you left the community where you went to high school and after high school moved somewhere else? Whether you moved away to college, okay? A lot of people. How many of you moved to a different community after that? Still, the majority of the room. So what happens is we want kids to go out and experience the world, but we also want them to know about the careers that are right here in their own backyard. So they come back and they get married and they have kids. And then what happens? Those little kids that they have, those are called grandchildren. You know what follows grandchildren? Grandparents. So then they move here too. So if the youth in our communities know about the opportunities, they know that we have great employers that have cool jobs, then they're going to choose to come back here. They're going to keep that in the back of their mind. This slide just shows you that as the chamber, we had some grant funding dollars from the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce Foundation and United Way of the Twin Cities, and now we've got another grant through Lakes Country Service Cooperative. We've already given back $80,000 to local employers to pay for paid internships for youth. And we've got new funds available. So we want to make it easier for you to hire interns by providing some funding, whether it's for wages or training or safety boots or curriculum, whatever that is. We want to make it easier for you to say yes to an internship for a young person so they remember those experiences and then come on back to our community. One of the other ways that we support workforce strategies, as I said, as employers, you guys work your tails off recruiting people to come to Fergus Falls, to come to Otter Tail County, to move from somewhere else and make this their home. But what happens? They love the job, and sometimes they just don't find their home or their people or their fit. So about 5 years ago, the Chamber started working on our Ignite Community Leadership Program. And what that is a combination of leadership skills training, so finding your strengths and leading with your strengths, to handling conflict, communication skills, team building skills. We build them up with leadership skills in self-leadership, team leadership, organizational leadership, and community leadership. And we pair that with community connections. So what they're doing is our classes are going out into the community. They're visiting the Otter Tail County Historical Society. They're seeing the the big armored vehicle at the police department. They're touring Otter Tail County Courthouse. They're going on an escape room. They're seeing tours of the community. So they're getting exposed to different parts of the community and meeting different people in the community so that they find their people, they find the things that are fun, they learn about the community, and they develop those roots. They go, yeah, this is my home. I feel like I belong here. So our Ignite Community Leadership Program, we're on our third class. They'll be graduating on May 20th. We have 14 students, and it's a mix of people that have been here more than a few years and people that just recently moved here, because we want to blend them together. And one of the most amazing things is to me is when I talk to somebody who was born and raised in Fergus Falls and I hear them say something like, oh, I didn't even know that was here. So we're exposing them to new things in the community. Applications will open in August for the class of 2027. They're half-day sessions from January until May. It's really been fun watching the growth and development of each and every class. One of our last sessions, they were doing an exercise and they were looking at each other like, oh yeah, that's totally you. Like they're getting each other. They know their strengths. They're supporting each other, and they're making connections they wouldn't make otherwise. And then finally, one of the things that we learned during COVID is that sometimes the community just needs a cheerleader. We need to be sending out positive messaging. And we are that catalyst for community vitality and positive communication. The last 2 weeks at the chamber, our schedules have been flipped upside down. Like everything went out the window. And we started working on the promotion and gearing up for Chris Tunkseth's role on American Idol. How many of you were watchers of American Idol before like February? How many of you have watched an episode in the last 6 months? Right? Okay, so this has been something that has been absolutely amazing to watch the community rally around. We have seen everything from Mayor Hicks chaperoning Giant Chris around town in 40-mile-an-hour winds and driving rain, to a sculptor, a restaurant owner, and a home builder getting together and say, hey, let's build a Viking ship in 10 days, shall we? And they do, and it happens. We've had businesses sponsoring signs and sponsorships for each other. Like, oh, you don't have one yet? Yeah, I'll buy one for you. We have businesses stepping up and saying, yeah, we can help make that happen. So we've been working on, together with the city and many other organizations and volunteers, putting together an event that costs $20,000. Like we've got to rent sound and lights and porta potties and all the things. So we've been working on putting together an event, and we've had such great support of the community. So so far we do have, let's see, there we go. I think we're going to have a Hometown Hero celebration on May 16th. Again, a lot of this is still a little bit tentative, but we can still plan for it because that's what we've been doing. We were planning like a $20,000 event for 10,000 people, maybe. But now it's a little more than maybe. So Saturday, May 16th, we'll have a 2 o'clock parade, a 6 o'clock concert at Kirkbride Park celebrating his journey. But really, it's not just about Chris. It's really about our community. I mean, you guys knocked it out of the park. It has been so cool to watch people just dive in and say, yeah, I can help with that. Oh, you have an unreasonable deadline? Sure, we can do that. Like just joyfully giving of their time and talents for this. So, and in the midst of it all, we had 4 ribbon cuttings last week. Like Fergus Falls is growing. I mean, I wish you all had my job because I have the best job in the world because I get to see all this growth firsthand. So again, thank you all to the community for making things like this happen. It's because of your support that we're able to do it. And finally, I want to kind of wrap up on how we kind of started today as far as with the chamber. We're celebrating 140 years of impact in the Fergus Falls area. We're planning a community spirit week. At the end of October, we're going to celebrate our 140th birthday with a ginormous birthday party right here at the Bigwood on a Thursday evening. When you think community spirit, think homecoming week. Like, remember the days when you had those themes? Like, for me, it was like back to the 50s. Now they probably do like back to the 90s or something like that. But we're going to do some theme days. So we're going to have a patriotic day. We're going to have a team spirit. That's TEAM, not teen spirit. So team spirit. So what's your school? Like wear your M-State Spartan jersey or wear your Timberwolves jersey, that kind of thing. We're going to have a plaid day. We're going to have an office party day. We're going to have Halloween is we're going to celebrate that Halloween the Friday before it is Halloween. So again, these are ways that you can build your employee culture by getting your teams involved in Community Spirit Week in celebration of the Chamber's 140th birthday. So there'll be more information going out, but you guys are getting a sneak peek on that, and we can't wait to celebrate our birthday with you. And all of this happens because of our staff. I got to give kudos to the chamber staff. Our board of directors has been so supportive. Missy and Amy are standing in the back. Leanne couldn't make it today, but really we need to give them a standing ovation. Standing ovation. That was a cue. Like I said, guys, our schedules have been flipped upside down, but we haven't taken anything off the calendar. So we had our Ignite session on Wednesday. We had 4 ribbon cuttings last week. We have Ignite graduation coming up. We're still doing all the things and, taking care of all the different requests that people have, but doing a great job doing it. So Missy Anderson is our administrative assistant. She's been on staff for almost 4 years now. Amy Callan joined our team in October as our new Director of Membership and Marketing. We, as the Chamber, are reinvesting in our members. We want to take better care of you, making sure that you are getting the membership experience that you desire. And again, special thanks too to our Board of Directors. We have many board members and past board members in the audience here today too, but our board members are fantastic volunteers in support of the community. Finally, before I turn it over to Jennifer, I want to wish everyone a happy Small Business Week. We're wrapping up that week, and it's a great way to, use that excuse. A lot of times Friday's payday, right? Anyone got payday today? Nobody? Nobody's getting paid today? Anyhow, get out there. Well, spend the money that you're going to get another time then. Get out there and support those small businesses today, and do it in the spirit of, I'm here to support our local economy. That's what I tell my husband. I need to go shopping. It's my job. We need to go out for dinner. It's my job. I need to buy a new car. It's my job. So, yeah. If you know my husband, Troy, you'd be like, oh, dear, he's in trouble. Anyhow, that is all that I have from the Fergus Falls Chamber perspective. Jennifer Byers is joining us now. She's the executive director of the Minnesota Chamber Foundation. Now, her first job, she had a short-lived stint detasseling corn as a teen, but now she's a titan in the Minnesota business advocacy realm. When she's off the clock, you'll find her on the St. Croix River in my hometown of Stillwater. Please welcome Jennifer Byers.
Good morning, everyone. Boy, that's tough to follow the high energy of Lisa Workman and the Otter. Boy, I don't know. And I apologize for being a little bit late. We had we do a regular legislative update with all of our local chamber partners. So we had one this morning at 8, which I did from the American, and it was great. Although the news isn't that great from the legislature, so maybe I'll just kind of skip that part of the presentation. I will tell you that we're holding out hopes for a tax bill, which some tax conformity issues, some really important issues for businesses, including the pass-through entity tax, R&D expensing. Some of those things will come out at the end. That's kind of hung up with the HCMC funding. I think there will be no modifications to paid family and medical leave, despite legislators hearing from many of you and our members and local governments across the state. That's going to play out into the elections. PFAS, other issues in play, NDAs. If you're following that issue, there's been a proposal to ban all NDAs, whether your community uses them or not. It sends a signal that kind of Minnesota isn't open for business. So we're managing all these issues, but I will tell you, the Fergus Falls Chamber is a great partner. We really rely on our local chamber partners to be our eyes and ears in our grassroots network, and Lisa and her team are that. And she talked to you about her workforce work. Connecting students to high-demand careers is really important to us, and we have partnerships with about 25 chambers across the state, including Fergus, on that project, which is really important to keeping folks in communities and growing careers there. Just maybe a minute on the Minnesota Chamber. If you aren't familiar with us, we're a statewide chamber. We're just like Fergus, except bigger. We have about 6,000 members. We're funded just by membership investments like your organization. And I think there's sometimes a perception that we're a big business Twin Cities organization. 40% of our members are in greater Minnesota, and 80% have fewer than 100 employees. So while we do have some of the larger companies as members, we are very much reflective of the state's economy. So, and thanks for our members here. Vector is a member, Ottertail, and actually Granite Partners is an investor in the foundation, which is some data I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. There are the business benchmarks report is back on the table, so you can take it and dig into the data a little bit further. But we have at the foundation for about the last 8 or 10 years been really looking at the performance of the state's economy. So I'm going to kind of take this a level up from the local, the city and the county, but you're going to see many threads and themes that really reflect back to what you have heard from your partners earlier today. And as we have looked at Minnesota's economy, we are really trying to measure how we're doing compared to other states, what the business community is doing, what our private sector economy is doing. And there's really no other organization that is doing this work. We have partnered, for example, as we develop recommendations, we do focus groups with the initiative foundations. Anna was part of our conversation a couple of months ago. We talked to other business groups. And our goal is to develop recommendations to really accelerate Minnesota's economic growth. When we released the business benchmarks in November, this is a publication we've been doing for 10 years where we measure all kinds of things, infrastructure, tax rates, education levels to other states. Our board said to us, you know, if we were really going to look at a couple, 2 or 3 measures on how Minnesota is doing to see if we are really growing at the rate we should be, what should those be? And so that's what this benchmarks report focused on. But first, let me kind of talk about why this matters. And I think back to the founders of the Fergus Falls Chamber, kind of the rising tides theme. We want to grow the pie for everyone. This isn't just about the business community. We want, Minnesota needs faster economic growth. And it will reflect in stronger local budgets, stronger school district budgets, stronger state budgets, and more opportunity for all Minnesotans. Job growth opportunities, opportunities to grow your family. And Minnesota, frankly, is struggling, and we see that in fiscal strain at the state and local level. So as you think about these strategies that I'm going to talk about, this is not just a business agenda. This is really an agenda for Minnesota. So let's talk about really the advantages in Minnesota and really our strengths. High GDP per capita and labor productivity levels. You saw earlier a slide on the county workforce participation. We have the 6th highest labor force participation in the country, which is a positive and a negative, because if you're already kind of up there, it's hard to squeeze a little more out. Highly educated workforce, second to Colorado with a highly educated workforce. We're innovative. We have the 5th most patents per capita, and those are coming from small companies and large companies. Our corporate hub, this is pretty unique and something that we shouldn't take for granted. And while many of these companies may be headquartered in the Twin Cities, there is clearly a statewide resonance to having these headquarter companies. They attract talent and people in Minnesota. And I think it's something sometimes that we just take for granted. And oftentimes these companies are choosing to expand in other states. We have a diverse sector. So think about Michigan 20 years ago, very much focused on the auto industry. So when that sector goes down, the whole economy goes down. Minnesota has the 5th most diverse sector in the country, and you'll see some of those sectors below. And in this region in particular, you know, manufacturing is the 2nd largest industry, 2nd largest in the state, frankly. So it's important that we have diversity there. But as we look at our state's economic growth, we can see that it is slowing over time. And this is slower than other parts of the country. It is generally true that the economy is slowing, particularly in the Midwest, but you can see that the 5% growth in the late 90s, we are down to about 1.5%, and you can see the projections going forward. And then for those of you that have labor force struggles, those aren't going to change. So if you look projected out, we hire S&P Global, they're a national forecaster, and you look at Minnesota's labor force growth, it's essentially flat. So as you think about your own companies, clearly we need to get everyone off the sidelines, and that's some of the work that the Chamber is doing and others. But you also need to think about productivity and automation and the role of AI and upskilling your employees to do the jobs that you have. So coming back to the benchmarks, we think these are 3 key indicators on how Minnesota is doing compared to the rest of the country, and frankly, they aren't looking as good as we would like them. So GDP per capita, you can see that we're ranked 38th in the country at 1%. Minnesota's workforce, labor force, I just showed that, 40th. And that is a factor that is a little bit tough to do something about, because that has to do something about birth rates, but it also has to talk about domestic migration. So this is people moving into Minnesota from other states. And I know you are close to North Dakota, so you see this, but you can see that we are a net loser. We are losing more people from Minnesota to other states than other people are coming to Minnesota. So GDP per capita, you can just see, and I'll start moving a little more quickly because I know we're behind. You can see we had an advantage. Minnesota's the blue line here, but you can see that the rest of the United States has caught up. Again, I showed you this labor force growth number, but let's look at migration numbers. So the blue line is international migration, immigrants, foreign-born workers. If not for immigration, Minnesota would be totally upside down on population growth. If not for these foreign-born workers, we would be a net loser, but you can see on domestic migration, we've lost people 20 of the last 25 years. We saw an uptick in 2025, which is excellent. We hope that continues, and we're digging into that to learn why that is. And so, Rolando from the Visitors Bureau, Illinois, that is a good market. You can see that actually, that's where a lot of people from Minnesota are coming from, is Illinois. And then you can see on the flip side, where we're losing to, and of course, North Dakota is number one, and then some of the warm weather states, and then some of our neighboring states. But as we dig into this, we think Minnesota has more of an attraction problem than a retention problem. When folks come here, they tend to stay. They connect to their communities, they like the schools, they like the amenities, they have good jobs. Our goal is getting people here. And the other challenge is, in terms of getting people here, is we don't do very well among high income earners. Our tax climate is certainly one of the factors there, but this is certainly an issue for concern. So what can we control? These are state-level barriers that we can certainly do something about. First is Minnesota's tax climate. The Tax Foundation looks at all of Minnesota's taxes, income, corporate, personal, sales. You can see that we ranked 44th most competitive or 6th least competitive. And you can see how our neighboring states fare. And clearly this is a competitive issue, not only for businesses, but for talent. Regulations and mandates. We did a poll of our manufacturing sector this year, and actually, interestingly, found insurance costs to be a #1 concern and a rising concern. Next to that was regulations and mandates, implementing paid family and medical leave, environmental permitting, earned sick and save time, struggles they have that they do not face in other states, and then the overall cost of doing business in Minnesota. And here you can see that while we do have expansions in Minnesota, you can see how we compare to our neighboring states. So again, I think our goal, and while some of this news is not positive, we at the Minnesota Chamber are cheerleaders for Minnesota, just like Lisa is for Fergus, but I think it's important to know the data and how we're doing, and our goal is to maybe reverse that and really put Minnesota at the top of some of these rankings, improve its percentage quartile across the country, and really make Minnesota kind of a North Star for attracting businesses. Another kind of data point is while we rank high in some of these areas, like let's take patents per capita, 5th per capita, our growth over the past decade has lagged. So again, what we're kind of saying is let's just not rest on our laurels. Let's think about some strategies to improve our growth in some of these areas. And as you guys were talking about attracting people to Fergus Falls to live, and a marketing campaign to do so, and housing and childcare, obviously affordability is an issue for some folks. And so you can see how Minnesota ranks compared to our neighbors, and college tuition and fee affordability, and then growth of new housing units. And this is a statewide number, so it clearly may not reflect the positive influence that you're having here. But even on housing, just from a statewide perspective, Minnesota is the orange line here. You can see that we just had a significant fall off since 2021. And so interest rates are the same across the country, so you can't point to that. Clearly there are some things that we need to do in Minnesota to create more investment in housing, because that is clearly, as someone comes to a community, that's really one of the first things they need is a housing option in their area. We do have a lot of opportunities ahead. Here are just some of the industry sectors that we think that are advantages for Minnesota. But I will tell you, one of the challenges is kind of a mixed signals, if you will. So for example, a new industry may come about and we are all excited about it and we'll streamline the permitting process for that company, but a manufacturer who has been in business for 20 years, trying to do an expansion, will have their permit sitting at the MPCA for 20 years. On the data center issue, no matter where you are on data centers, last year the legislature put in place some incentives and guardrails to advance data center investment. And this year, they're trying to pass legislation to stop data center investment. So if you have capital on the sideline and you're trying to grow a business here, uncertainty and instability is really the worst thing going on. So I think as we move forward, really thinking about how we can streamline and align our efforts to attract and retain businesses is important. And it's not just a big business issue. This is small businesses. We saw an uptick coming out of COVID of small businesses starting, and that has continued. So that's great news for Minnesota. We have the highest 5-year survival rate. So once you make it to 5 years, you're going to do pretty well in Minnesota. We think we need some more support around those startup companies. So where are we? So I just flew through a whole bunch of slides, not a lot of good news, but we are really, actually next week, releasing a whole series of recommendations that we want to work with our local chamber partners, our local governments, our members on, in trying to turn the tide and change the trajectory in Minnesota. We're at a pivotal point in the state's economy. We are losing ground compared to other states. We can't kind of sit back and say, oh, everything's fine in Minnesota. It actually, while we do have a number of assets to build on, we really need to think about some strategies to change our direction. We will have a new governor. We have elections going on. And these are really conversations we encourage you to have with your local leaders, your state leaders, and your business peers to think about strategies to move forward. So actually next week, we are releasing some recommendations. And here's a bit of a preview of those. And I'm going to wrap up on this and, again, get us to the panel because I know we're a little bit behind. But really, we need strategies to unlock investment. I talked about kind of the on this hand and on this hand strategy of the state legislature. We need a clear economic vision for our state where there's alignment between local governments and state governments. We need to streamline the process to expand and grow business in Minnesota. We do not, for example, on environmental permitting, we want high standards. We are not talking about standards. We're talking about the ability to get a permit and to have some certainty in the process once you meet those standards. We think it's time for a comprehensive review of Minnesota's tax system. Instead of kind of this piecemeal approach where we think about the R&D credit or the sales tax, let's take a look at the big picture and really think about strategies to make Minnesota more competitive, looking at incentives and initiatives in key sectors, and enhancing small business support. Minnesota's workforce, for example, the work that's going on in Fergus Falls, connecting students to careers and opportunities in your region is critically important. We need to continue that. But we also think we need to kind of maybe rethink our workforce system, maybe make it a little more employer and employee-centric, and think about really educating and creating long-term learning strategies based on new technologies and where things are going in the future. I will tell you at the legislature this year, there are 40 bills introduced to regulate AI, everything from chatbots to all kinds of different things. And certainly we want guardrails, but we also don't want to inhibit growth and the ability to grow companies and grow individual skills. And so, for example, that's an issue that probably should be handled at the federal level. We don't need the state regulating how you all use AI. And then finally, on talent, and really making Minnesota a talent attractor in the Midwest. Some of those issues you guys were already just talking about, housing supply, childcare supply, thinking about immigration, clearly a federal issue, but Minnesota can play a role, and we are doing that at the state chamber and advocating for immigration reform. And then thinking about our higher ed institutions. Students oftentimes will come through a higher ed institution to Minnesota, and we think we need a stronger strategy there to attract more students, and really having Minnesota State and the university and the private colleges work together to attract students, and then they can fight among themselves about where they go. But we know once a student comes here, oftentimes they'll stay, and they become attached as Lisa said, they might find a partner or find a great career, and then you have your future workforce. So a lot of strategies there, but certainly ones that we want your partnership on and your feedback on. We'll be talking to elected officials and business leaders about these strategies and hope you will as well. And with that, I will wrap up and turn it back to... Thanks, Jennifer. You bet.
Appreciate that. There we go. All right, well, it's time to bring our panel up for some quick questions. So we've got Mayor Hicks, Sean Sullivan, Nick Leonard, Rolando, me maybe, And our moderator today is Jeff Ackerson. And Jeff is a former chamber board chair. He's the vice chair of the Ottertail County CDA, and he's the CEO of Vector Windows. So he understands all of these things from a variety of different levels. So let's have some questions. If you got your questions written down, hold them up. We'll get to those. We do have some other questions that we've prepared in advance. And who's watching my clock? Oh, we have 5 minutes. Wow. Wow.
That's right. All right, again, thank you to everyone that showed up today. We'll try to make the panel go fairly quickly, so we'll get out probably a little late, but not terribly late. So I just wanted to follow up, though, on maybe a question first off for Mayor Hicks and Commissioner Sullivan. We heard a lot about government being here to help, all of those things. And we know that there's a lot of regulatory issues and a lot of things that are out there today. And so wanted to ask maybe Mayor Hicks first from a real local level, and then also Commissioner Sullivan from an Ottertail level. What red tape is currently being cut to make it easier for a new business to break ground in Fergus Falls and Ottertail County in 2026?
We're changing the color from red to green.
There you go, good.
I think obviously, as kind of I said, there's a lot of programs obviously available to support business activity and new businesses, and as much as we can't obviously change some of the state kind of pieces of that, what we can do is help guide people, and I think that's kind of that's what I've seen in the last 6 to 8 months now is that. That's kind of a mandate that we've taken on, collectively, helping people actually get through that quagmire of paperwork. The programs that are out there, we just got to become better experts in actually helping people complete those forms and then get the money. We, as I say, on a local basis, obviously we can push things through at a city level in terms of issuing permits for building and things of that nature. But the meat and potatoes is getting that funding to help business expand, and that's where we've kind of developed a team approach to just helping get that done.
Yeah, and similar to what Anthony says, I mean, the state imposes a lot of guardrails on us and things that we have to do. But one of the things I think is almost what we're not doing, and we're one of the few counties that don't have countywide zoning. In Ottertail County, we have shoreland management, of course, because we're required to. There's a couple things that require conditional use permits for, but in general, we don't have countywide zoning. So business owners, people are free to do with their land what they want to do. And to me, at least, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not in favor of going in that direction of countywide zoning at this point. So it's really what we're not doing, staying out of the way, what we're doing.
Good. We want to turn that from I'm here with the government and I'm here to help as a scary thing. I'm here with the government. I want to work in the background to help support businesses is what we want to hear. So appreciate that. Maybe a question now as we kind of talk a little bit. We had a lot of conversation about tourism and tourism attraction and quality of life and how tourists can turn into residents, other business owners, employees for current businesses. And I want to maybe ask a question of both Rolando and Nick. We talked about the local strategies. We talked about the Ottertail County strategies. We also want to make sure we're aware that the state also has a strategy of bringing people into the state, and they've shifted now to the Star of the North strategy. And I want to ask the question of how is our region positioning itself within that statewide brand to ensure that we aren't just a stopover, but also a primary destination?
That's a great question. And that's a question that I made myself the first 2 years I was here. Because Explore Minnesota would be the most important partner we have. They give us all the information. They have a grant program that is absolutely great. And they give us all the tools to jump in their bus to promote Minnesota as a state. So this year was the first year, and this is the only town that jumped in that bus and created a campaign of the Star of the North, but based on Fergus Falls. So that's what we did this year. The campaign had more than 60,000 views, and we were super happy to have jumped in that bus because just tagging Explore Minnesota is going to give you a lot of people to follow us. Yeah.
I'll just add, Explore Minnesota has a really hard job. It's a big state. They have a lot of gravitational pull to the metro. And so Star of the North, and I've been on the Governor's Tourism Council since the Dayton administration. I'm always shocked that they keep putting me on because I'm a person from greater Minnesota who talks a lot about you need to make sure that your marketing reflects more than, I love the Mall of America, it's a lovely place, but more than the metro assets. And frankly, any agency is going to have heavy concentration of metro staff. And they don't necessarily always know, they don't know about how to promote greater Minnesota as effectively as they should. And so whether it's Star of the North or some other type of marketing campaign, the best way for us to be engaged is to continue to push and nudge, and there's a lot of us in greater Minnesota that do it, to make sure that you are doing marketing that not just reflects the metro, but also reflects all of Minnesota. And by the way, Duluth isn't the only part of greater Minnesota, and Rochester, because that's something else I struggle with. So we have to be at the table, even though it's frustrating sometimes.
So Lisa, you're not going to get off the hook either, but we actually had a good questions from the audience come up, and so I wanted to put this one in front of you as well. As Shop, Move, and Groove has moved over to the pavilion and away from the downtown, and of course that decreases foot traffic during that event of Shop, Move, and Groove, what are some ways that we can drive more businesses down to that downtown area and allow to help remedy some of that maybe perceived sales loss during that event?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Good question. So Shop, Move, and Groove was an event that was created in 2006 after we eliminated Crazy Days due to lack of participation. So the event went on, actually it was 2004, but the event has gone on for 10 years and has a number of different forms and fashions with a retail, music, food focus around our downtown area. It's been on Lincoln Avenue, it's been at Space Park, but over the last 3 years, honestly, our board took a look at our business participation and our attendance. It had been trending down every year for the last 3 years. It's an event that's in the middle of July. Who's not busy in July? You've got, the fairs, and you've got camps, and you've got Summerfest in June, and all the different things. And we were finding that it was harder and harder for our business community to stay engaged and to participate and to staff it. I mean, is anyone short-staffed? And then you're going to say, well, we're going to stop everything and send everyone to a trade show booth. I mean, it's a great marketing opportunity. So we made a hard decision last year, and that event has been sunset. So we are, in a regroup stage. It won't happen in July of this year due to that declining participation, both from vendor participation as well as in attendance. They're hard decisions to make. I don't want to be the one that's getting rid of popular events, but if they're not successful, I look at the chamber as a business entity. If it's not profitable and trends are going down, then you got to cut your losses and move on, which frees up your staff, which frees up your resources to do other things. Will we have a replacement in 2026? No. We'll have a big birthday party in October, and we think that that's going to be a great opportunity for the community to celebrate and get together, and maybe a time frame that works better for them. So good question. Hard decisions that are made, especially through our board of directors as volunteers. It's tough to get rid of something that's fun.
Can I just do a follow-up on that? Obviously, yes, Shop, Move, and Groove is it's not going to take place this year, but like everything else, somebody's going to fill that void, and the Over the River Summer Splash is going to take place on July 25th, and the goal of that is to drive traffic downtown, and it's going to be held on a Saturday, and the objective of that is to center that draw to people downtown. So there's going to be a combination of music, obviously vendors, food trucks, etc. So, there will be an activity taking place downtown, and the group is working on that over the river theme. So it's trying to connect that then to obviously the winter one, and then looking at doing something in the fall that would be kind of obviously getting people downtown and getting families involved, in that. And then ultimately working towards a film festival, in conjunction with Visit Fergus Falls. So, you can, as Lisa said, you can try to put on events to bring people downtown, but we need participants, and that's always hardest, driving people to actually participate. The local community has to come step up and walk downtown and do things.
That's good. Well, we had a lot of good presentations today, a lot of facts, a lot of data, a lot of things in front of us. I guess maybe as a last question that I want to open up to the entire panel up here, we've got a lot of business leaders in this room. We've got a lot of people that are out here that can make a difference in our community. And I guess the question that I would have to you guys is, if all the business leaders in this room did just one thing walking out of this meeting to activate the vision for Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County, what should that be?
I'll get it started. If you're going to do one thing as a business leader, be positive about Fergus Falls. Focus on the things that are great. Yeah, there's construction and there's going to be some annoyances and things like that, but think of the end goal. Think of where we're headed, not where you're sitting in the middle of it. I always say it's kind of like if you're saving money for a trip or if you're on a diet, like, don't think of the starving yourself part. Think of like, oh yeah, I can fit into that prom dress I wore 80 years ago or whatever it is. But again, focus on the positive, and lean into the chamber too. We're here as a resource, as you're recruiting people, as you're potentially selling a job or a career opportunity to someone, lean to us to help you connect them to the community. We've got some great new welcome books. For some of our higher level investors, we do community tours, so I will sell Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County for you. We want people to come here. I'm a transplant myself, so it's a great place to call home and just focus on the positive.
I can go next. I think, as we saw with the Chris Tungsteth kind of, media frenzy that we had in Fergus, there was a lot of energy, there was a lot of effort, and there was a lot of enthusiasm about Fergus Falls. And I think there's a lot of passion for Fergus Falls, and I think it's continue that, and reflect that. Obviously, I'm probably the furthest transplant in the room. Fergus Falls is a really safe place to live, and I don't think we appreciate everything that Fergus Falls actually has to offer, and maybe it's relating those experiences that you've had when you travel and come back home, and use those people that have come back, quote, home to Fergus to bolster kind of encouraging other people to come back, because it truly is a wonderful place, and we've got access. There's nothing that you can't get in Fergus Falls, and I think encourage your employees to shop local and support the businesses that are here. Whether that's buying a car here, whether it's buying a jacket here, or whether it's buying food here, or a washing machine or whatever. Because if we collectively don't support Fergus Falls businesses, it's hard to then tell somebody else to support them.
And I think, and just playing off what you guys said, you said it very well. Mayor, you said it earlier, there's a hunger for growth, I think, within this community, and I can feel it, and we can sense it, and it just seems like things are going to start happening. And as you take that away, room, continue to help us be champions for what's going on in Fergus Falls and in this community, and that's really what it boils down to is continuing to champion growth, champion the business community, help each other out, be there for each other, because I really feel it. I'm a transplant too. I've been here for 15 or 16 years or something like that. I've never felt this level of energy, I think, since I've been here. So it's a lot of good things are going to be happening.
I have a practical idea with that. the Chris Townsend phenomenon in Fergus Falls has been an eye-opener because, I did a video on an afternoon, and the next day the video had 16,000 views. And I was like, what? And the thing is that everyone in the community shared that video. The message amplified in an amazing way. If we could do that with the content that is showcasing what we have in Fergus Falls on another County, if we proudly share the content that everything we have to offer, Visit Fergus Falls is doing campaigns all the time. Share it, share it, share it, share it, and amplify the message. That's something that I would say that will help us a lot.
And I didn't come as far as Anthony. I came from Iowa, but so maybe more disliked. I do now. I didn't. Ben Winchester, one of my favorite rural sociologists, maybe the only rural sociologist I know, to ask, do you want to be a melting pot or a stew? Nobody is moving here or joining our community for what it was 30 years ago. They're joining the community because of what it is today and the vision they have for themselves in it. And that means that we have to want to stew, right? They don't want to become part of the culture that we are. They want to build the culture. They want to embrace what is, but also they want to add their own flavor. And so what I would say is if you're a leader, and many of you are in this community, they have a vision for how they can be part of what Fergus Falls is going to look for in the future. So don't hang on to that baton so tightly that we're afraid to let them be part of that and add to that stew. So Ben always talks about, do you want to be a melting pot or do you want to be a stew? And what I would leave you with is think about, am I contributing to a stew or am I contributing to a melting pot? And hopefully you want to be part of contributing to a stew. Thanks.
That's right. What do you call the Iowans in that if part of the stew? I'm a little bit concerned.
I knew there was going to be an Iowa joke.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, I know we're touching up on time. I do want to say thank you to all of the presenters that presented today. Again, tremendous things going on in this county, tremendous things going on in this city. So we do need to celebrate. We do need to make sure we share that message, and appreciate all of you guys taking the time again this morning as well to come out and listen to what's happening so that you can help share that message as well. And Lisa, I don't know if you've got a formal close. All right, then we're going to call this meeting adjourned, and we're going to allow you guys to get back to what you do every day. So thank you guys very much.